folks, welcome to OTD, also known as On the Deck, where you can get all the sports you need in 10 minutes. My name is Adam Orduna. This is my mom, Gina.
He is a journalist.
She's the enthusiast.
I am so enthusiastic because it is NFL time. There's fantasy draft going on. We are in the preseason, and the NFL is perfect. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not. But,
right.
okay.
Well, you were onto something. It is the NFL preseason. We are very close to college football.
Yes.
All the high schools right now are gearing up for their seasons. I know on the Missouri side, their first games take place this weekend. All the little league teams are practicing and things like that.
I love
on the
watching
Kansas
the little
side,
kids
we're 2
run
weeks
around.
away. Yeah. So we're right in there as football season is gearing up and getting closer and closer to the actual season. So we're really excited for that, and that's the best time of year in this household. So we can't wait for any kickoff. That's preseason.
You know that
or
song
what?
at Christmas? It's the most wonderful time of the year. That's how I feel when football kicks off.
Right. It is just awesome. And so with it being awesome, there are some issues taking place right now.
Yeah.
And as our title suggests, it is a rocky start for the NFL. And right now we've got some really major issues that are taking place. Now, some of this isn't completely directed within football or correlated with the NFL or football. A lot of this has to just deal with where we are as a country and the identity that we're really trying to move on with, or what we're trying to take on as a country, but it is spilling over into football and athletics in general. And some of that has to do with the protests going on, obviously with all the Charlottesville, Virginia stuff that took place a few days ago. People are very outraged all across the country, and that's white, black, all colors, all ethnicities. People are not happy about what took place in Charlottesville, and to that end, there will be protests this whole season. Not just because of that. A lot of it has to do with what Colin Kaepernick's been going through, but the stuff that took place in Virginia is only going to catapult and fuel the fire for what a lot of these athletes feel like they have to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a huge, I don't want to say a dark cloud, but it is definitely something hanging over the league right now as far as how the owners and the league are going to handle players sitting down or taking knees during the national anthem, and it's tough.
There's never a good time for neo-Nazis and the KKK and hate groups of any kind.
Right.
There's never a good time for that. But if you're the NFL, the last thing you wanted is hot on the heels of Colin Kaepernick not being brought into anybody's camp, not being signed. You've got more and more buzz about him being whiteballed and kicked out, and people are discriminating against him because he took a stand that was his right to take. You know, and then all of a sudden now you've got this racial, because his knee was about racial violence towards unarmed black and brown people by the police.
Correct.
Well, now you've got these hate groups out here perpetrating violence. They killed a young white woman out here protesting and showing that they hate everybody.
Right.
The NFL's thinking, please, of any time to not have something kick off, it's right now.
Correct.
Because now you've got black players who are already mumbling about they don't like the way Cap is being treated.
Correct.
They understand what he was standing for, and you're trying to tell us, NFL, if I take a stand for something about race, I could also then be out of a job forever.
Or whiteballed, or however you want to quantify
so
it.
You've already had those grumblings growing and growing as the season got closer and Cap wasn't signed, and then you have this monstrosity of the lack of humanity in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yep.
So I'm sure the NFL is like, oh, great. So much so that some of the coaches like Hugh Jackson are coming out making statements because players like Michael Bennett sat down during the national anthem of his preseason game with the Seahawks, and then Marshawn Lynch, who's now with the Raiders.
Right.
He said, I always sit. So, you know.
Right.
But then they asked Hugh Jackson, you know, what do you think? He's like, I didn't like his answer, and we can get into that in a minute, but the NFL, this does you can't separate sports completely from the rest of the world.
Right.
In some cases, it's our escape, but in some cases, you don't live in a vacuum. Those things come in.
Yes, they do.
You have a league that's 70% African American.
Correct, and the NBA has like 85%.
90%.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, exactly.
If there are issues regarding race, it's going to penetrate the NFL, and you have to just be willing to accept that.
Right, and I think because our country is still younger and newer than a lot of, think about like China and Japan and some of these other countries that have a longer history than what the United States has. Remember, people settled here because they wanted to get away. This country was founded on immigrants and people getting away. So this is still a very new country on this planet. And so the identity of this country is still very much up in the air as far as who we want to be and where we want to go moving forward. And humanity is the number one thing that has to take place. Treating people with respect, treating people the way you want to be treated. That's one of our golden rules within this house.
Always.
And we've had so much go on in this country that it is very hard for people to just ignore some of the things that took place. And it is 2017, getting close to 2018,
right,
and we're still having these types of issues. And so Hugh Jackson, he's the head coach of the Browns. We were listening to some other sports analysts earlier talk about, well, Hugh Jackson doesn't feel like he's got a huge platform to speak on because his team's not very good. He doesn't want his team to get caught up in the protests and being distracted. He just wants his team to focus on winning.
Well, his job is on the line,
and his job is to win football games. And I understand that for a lot of reasons. Your job is to produce wins and put people in the stands and to run your team the right way. And so that all takes place. But there was a lot of things. There were a lot of things that took place for him to get that job. Protests, people fighting, people doing a lot of different meetings to allow him to get to where he's at. And if his players feel a certain way about what's going on and they feel like, hey, I also have a platform, my job is gonna maybe take second place to doing what's right and speaking out against the things that are going on.
Well, you know, and one of the things he said in his little statement was, I hope our guys aren't worried about that. I know our team, we probably won't have that. I don't want that, in reference to people protesting during the anthem. He said, you know, the things that are going on in the world, I hope they get ironed out. Well, hope never fixes anything. Hope is a good place to start, but action, activity, unrest, protests, those are the things that change the world.
Right.
You could have hoped that Hitler would start doing the right thing, but you had to go and fight that to change the world.
Correct.
You could hope that Jim Crow laws would just go away, but people had to get in the streets and protest and fight for their rights. So I thought Hugh Jackson was very small-centered in saying that, and you brought up this point, so I'm going to give you credit for it. When his players who you don't want to sit during the anthem get in their car and drive away after the game, guess what? They're black men in America, subject to the police pulling them over, subject to being shot, subject to the same racism and hate that took place in Charlottesville. You cannot just ignore it.
Correct.
And I wish Hugh would have just said, hey, listen, everyone has a right to protest.
Right.
I respect that right. I want us to focus on football. That statement alone would have been one thing.
Much
but to go
better.
on and say, I hope things get ironed out, you made yourself look ignorant.
Exactly.
And you made yourself belie the fact that so many people fought for you to have the job and the platform that you even have. So I didn't like that.
No, I didn't like that either, especially from the background of which he comes from. He's from Los Angeles. He grew up in the 60s with the first real race riots and all the police brutality going on in the late 60s. He was around that time when he was around in that time in LA when that stuff was going on. This is a man that should understand protests and being able to speak out against things that are wrong in this country. And so it really struck the ear the wrong way. It didn't seem like he was really having the support of his players. Hopefully he can figure something out, because that's the quickest way to have the locker room afraid. The reason why Pete Carroll does so well in his locker room is because he has the trust and respect of his players.
Well, let me say one last thing on this, because we have to move on to the other topic.
Yeah.
The quickest way to not get change is to say, well, mine is fine.
Right.
If yours is fine and that's good enough for you, the world will never change. And what I heard him say, or mine's fine, so I hope somebody else irons that out.
Hopefully it works itself out.
No, yours isn't fine, Hugh.
That's not good. That's not going to work out. Well, speaking of things not working out, we've got Ezekiel Elliott right now, who is under fire, hot fire, with all the domestic abuse charges that he has had to endure for the last few weeks. There was all the rumors of, will he get suspended? Is he going to, be suspended? Who nobody knows. And then all of a sudden, the NFL comes out and says, you got 6 games. And everyone's saying, whoa, why 6 games? Well, these pictures came out. There's a 911 call that came out. It was his ex-girlfriend that he was dating while he was in Colombia. It was a full-year investigation. They went on vacation. There were 2 different police departments that looked into this situation. They came up with nothing, which makes it hard to kind of talk about this, because now you're really talking about, well, why didn't they come up with everything? And the reason for that is because there weren't really any other witnesses that took place within this domestic abuse charge that she's trying to claim. So it's really now a he said, she said situation. And so when you're in that kind of predicament, it's hard for someone to say, well, this happened or that happened, because nobody was really there.
Right. Well, his accuser's name is Tiffany Thompson, and I'm always on the fence on this,
right.
Especially when you're talking about children or real victims. You want to protect the right of the victim.
Yes.
But then when it's like up in the air and you don't know what actually happened, then you basically, if I'm Ezekiel Elliott, I'm saying, no, she's not my victim, she's my accuser. So Tiffany Thompson, when he was at Ohio State in Columbus, and they went on vacation somewhere in Florida, she's claiming that 5 days while they were between the two places, he beat her all the time. And you've seen the bruising. I have no idea what happened. Let me be perfectly clear. If Ezekiel Elliott is beating up women, not only should he be suspended, he probably shouldn't be playing.
Right.
You need to go get your life right.
Correct.
But if he is innocent of this, and the police couldn't find anything, but the NFL takes a year and a half, giving, Roger Goodell has ultimate authority,
yep.
and they can just say, we believe her. We can't prove it. We just believe her.
Right.
And then this man is missing 6 games of his professional career.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's only 6 games, but what if that costs him the playoffs?
Right.
Or, what if that's a mark against him for the rest? I'm on the fence about this whole thing.
Same here.
I like that the NFL is taking domestic violence very clear.
Yes.
Quit hitting your girl.
Right.
Quit hitting your wife, whether you're in college or once you're on a team. Stop doing that.
Your girlfriend, your fiance, your wife, your spouse,
even your
your
mom,
significant
whatever.
other, anything like that. The NFL is no longer
Tolerating
sweeping
that.
this stuff under the rug. They're not tolerating this anymore. And Zeke has been getting away with stuff the whole summer, the whole year, for the most part. And so I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's some backlash with the things that he was doing. So we don't know exactly, like you said, what took place. This is a very bad look for him and for the Cowboys. There are pictures that have surfaced, and she's really marked up, bruised up. Again, nobody knows officially what happened, but this is a very, very interesting situation here, and we don't know what's going on.
We don't. Well, let me respect the NFL for taking a hard line, but I also want to be fair to a player. I'm a mom of 2 sons, and if this is someone who has been quoted as saying, I'll ruin him, the police departments and other people found her not to be factual, or she's lied or whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to you're innocent until proven guilty.
Correct.
And so I really hope that if there's a different truth to be told, that it comes out. But at the end of the day, just quit hitting your girls.
Yeah, don't put yourself in that position. Keep your hands to yourself and just go play football. That's all you got to do.
Let's play football.
That's all you got to do.
Let's play football.
It's football season. We don't want to have this talk anymore.
No.
So hopefully Zeke can get it handled and they can move on peacefully, and she's okay and we can move on. But I want to say, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Type in my name, Adam Orduna. Like our Facebook page. Type in OTD. We want to say we'll see you next time, folks.